All right, let's get right into it. There's a story of huge international importance unfolding right now at the United Nations. And really, it's about a very clear red line being drawn. It's one of those rare moments where it feels like the entire world is speaking with one voice. And it's all about protecting the very people we send out there to keep the peace.
And this quote, this is really the heart of the message. This is not just typical diplomatic chatter. No, this is a stark warning. You have this huge coalition of countries coming together and saying, hey, attacking UN peacekeepers isn't just wrong, it could be a war crime. And let me tell you, that is about the strongest language you can possibly use in international relations. It's a huge deal.
And get this, the sheer scale here is what's so wild. We're not talking about, a handful of nations lodging a complaint. No, this statement was backed by over 70 countries, plus the entire European Union. That's a massive slice of the global community all standing together. Unity like that is incredibly rare, and it just shows you how seriously everyone is taking this.
So you might be wondering, what triggered such an unprecedented global response? Well, as it so often does, it all started with a tragedy. It came down to the real human cost, paid by those serving under that blue UN flag.
3. This number, this is the human cost we're talking about. The immediate catalyst was a horrific attack that took the lives of 3 Indonesian peacekeepers who were serving with the UN in Lebanon. Just a devastating loss that sent absolute shockwaves across the globe. And the tragedy, well, it didn't even end there. On top of the 3 peacekeepers who lost their lives, many others were injured. And when you look at this list of nationalities, it really drives home just how international these missions are. We're talking about personnel from France, Ghana, Indonesia, Nepal, Poland, all of them wounded. It's a powerful reminder that an attack on one peacekeeper is really an attack on all of us.
So just for some context, all of these peacekeepers were part of what's known as UNIFIL. That's the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon. And their job is, well, it's incredibly tough. They're tasked with trying to keep the peace and maintain security along one of the most volatile borders on the planet. They're supposed to be neutral. They're there to keep people safe, which is exactly why attacking them is such a terrible offense.
Okay, let's pivot for a second and look at the diplomatic side of this, because the coalition that came together in response, it's honestly remarkable. The sheer breadth of this united front is almost as important as the statement they issued.
Just look at this list. The statement was co-led by Indonesia, which of course tragically lost its soldiers, and France. But then you have global powers that are often on opposite sides of, well, pretty much everything. We're talking China, Russia, the UK, all signing the same document. When those nations agree on something, you know it's serious. It sends this incredibly powerful signal that on this one issue, there is zero disagreement.
And this quote really sums up the one principle they all stand behind: non-negotiable. Think about that word. It's so powerful, so absolute. What this coalition is saying, loud and clear, is that the safety of UN personnel is a fundamental pillar of how the world is supposed to work. There's just no room for compromise on this.
But, this statement wasn't just about saying this is bad. No, it was a direct call to action. They laid out very specific demands, both for the UN itself and for all the different groups on the ground.
So what exactly are these demands? Let's break them down. First up, strengthen protection. The UN has to use every tool it has to keep its people safe. Second, investigate the attacks. And these investigations need to be fast, they need to be transparent, and they need to be thorough. Third, and this one is so important, accountability. The people who did this have to be held responsible. And finally, number 4, de-escalate tensions. They're urging everyone to get back to the cessation of hostilities agreement. It's basically a 4-step plan to pull the whole region back from the edge. And we have to remember, none of this is happening in a vacuum. This attack on peacekeepers is really a symptom of a much bigger, much more worrying problem: the deepening humanitarian crisis that's been escalating in Lebanon. In the coalition, they made it a point to talk about this wider context. They didn't just express concern for their own people. They talked about the civilians who were caught in the middle of all this. They pointed to the massive destruction of civilian infrastructure and the heartbreaking number of civilian casualties. It really paints a grim picture of the real toll this conflict is taking. And if you need one number to drive that point home, here it is: over 1 million. Beyond the direct casualties, the statement highlights that more than 1 million people have been forced from their homes. Think about that. An entire population uprooted. It's a massive humanitarian emergency, and it's the backdrop for this entire security crisis.
So this all leaves us with one critical question, doesn't it? We've just seen this incredibly rare, powerful moment of global unity, a clear, forceful demand for protecting peacekeepers, for holding attackers accountable, and for ending this devastating conflict. The world has spoken. The only question that remains is, will anyone listen?